If you're like me, you're probably tired of all this division in our nation. I mean, it's getting ridiculous. It seems like every day we're growing farther and farther apart as a nation. And what if there's something that we could do to make it better? What if there were some action steps we could take in order to begin moving the other direction? Have you ever heard of the contact hypothesis in psychology? And this is a hypothesis that suggests that direct contact with different people between members of different social and cultural groups can reduce prejudice, it can improve intergroup relation, and promote mutual understanding. It can lead to positive attitudes, decreased stereotypes, and increased acceptance between individuals from different groups under certain conditions. That's right. First-hand contact with people can bring us closer together. In a way, I think this is what Mark Twain was getting at when he talked about travel. He said that travel is fatal to prejudice and bigotry and narrow-mindedness. And many of our people need it sorely on these accounts. He would go on to say as well that broad, wholesome, charitable views of men and things cannot be acquired by vegetating in one's little corner of the earth all of one's lifetime. And you see, I think Twain was alluding to how encountering and interacting with different cultures and peoples inevitably transforms our perspectives of them. Both the contact hypothesis and Twain's remarks I've found true in my own experience as well. Maybe some of you are the same. I've done a lot of mission work in my life. And I remember early on going into some of these mission endeavors with that mindset that I think a lot of people do as missionaries when they first get going. And it's this: I'm going to take the good news to the world and show these people what God's love is really all about. I'm going to show them the light. And then every time I came back from each one of the trips I went on, I came back humbled. I came back not the same as when I left. A lot of times on those trips, I discovered my own biases, my own prejudices, and really my own narrow-mindedness and my sense of superiority. None of us thinks we have these things, by the way. But then, for some reason, going out, being among people who are different from me, their experiences, getting to know them, all of a sudden opened my perspectives to see something that I had never thought about or experienced before. You see, we all grow up in our small corners of the world, and we only really know other people that we encounter along the way. We know what we study. We know what we hear growing up. And nowadays, we gather much of our knowledge about different people via social media and media. And the very biased perspectives that the algorithm feeds to us via our own clicking habits. So most of us know about people just like us from whatever communities we've been raised in or educated in. Aside from that, we know other people from other races and cultures and ethnicities and socioeconomic classes via second or third-hand sources. So in essence, we develop our beliefs, our attitudes, our assumptions, and our biases about other people from around the world without ever meeting any of them, without ever really knowing them. But have you ever noticed that real encounters and experiences and relationships with different people inevitably change us? They change our perspectives, our understandings, even our values. Because when people become people in our eyes, when a woman from abroad becomes Mary, who lives in the Canton Virginia in the mountains of El Salvador, Mary who lost her son from starvation because of their ongoing drought, who walks 3 miles a week with her mother on her back to get her the medical care that she needs, whose family's livelihood is being destroyed by climate change. When we see that, when we know a person, it changes us. When numbers on a page become real human beings with families and hopes and dreams and fears and struggles just like those that we go through. Those unbreakable ideologies that we have, those assumptions, those biases and beliefs that we originally had are immediately called into question for the sake of our neighbor. So I think Mark Twain was right, but I don't think ending bigotry and discrimination and narrow-mindedness is simply about travel or even about having people encounters. I think it's about developing authentic relationships with people. That's what makes the difference. As long as we keep people in categories of other, apart from us, then we maintain our own sense of superiority and our own sense of self-righteousness over them. And when we do that, we don't leave room for listening, for dialogue, and for truly loving our neighbor as ourselves. As we've seen in today's world, the intentional echo chambers we've created in our media and social media, they tend to bolster our own superiority and self-righteousness. They have moved us to gather in these homogenous, whether it's digital or otherwise, these homogenous communities of like-minded people to travel less the road of diversity. And in so doing, we treat those outside of our in-group not as neighbors, but as other, even as enemies, even before we know them. And this is further magnified by politicians who use this othering, this hatred of one another to bolster their own power and support pushing increased separateness and division through hardline policy and the execution of that policy, moving us further and further and further away from the unity that I know you and I both long for. In many ways, we've shown that we believe our partisan ideologies to be superior to real, authentic relationship with one another, except within those homogenous groups that we're a part of. But let me ask you this. What happens if the homophobic man spends time with and gets to know his gay siblings? What happens if the anti-trans bigot actually builds a trusting relationship with folks who are trans? What happens if the Christian actually sits down and gets to know his Jewish and Muslim and Hindu and atheist siblings? Or when the white woman gets to share life with her black friends who have or continue to experience racial segregation? What happens if the pro-deportation zealots spend time getting to know their undocumented family members who are just trying to survive? I want to get real with you guys for a minute. This is one of the toughest things as a pastor that I wrestle with in today's world. One of the most heartbreaking things that I experience is knowing and loving people who have made enemies of one another. Knowing friends who are undocumented, terrified for their lives and the lives of their children in this world that they live in here in our nation. And at the same time, I have other friends on the other side who are calling for the immediate and harsh and immediate removal of my friends without ever knowing their stories, ever knowing their struggles. I have good friends in law enforcement who sometimes are afraid to go to work and not sure how to be and do their tasks as they're called to do. And at the same time, I have black friends who live in fear of being pulled over by police and what might happen to them if they are. I have friends from other countries who are terrified about what the U.S. is going to do next to exert their power over their nation. And at the same time, I have friends who think that the U.S. should absolutely exert more force and military force even in America's best interest for the sake of freedom and safety and America first. And I ask myself, time and time again, what if my friends knew one another like I do? What if they got out of their small little bubbles of like-minded people, literally and figuratively, and traveled the road toward intentional relationship with those who are different, with those others? What might be? What might change if people became people again? Not numbers on a page, not pawns in some political scheme or political ideology, not enemies, but siblings. Isn't this part of the Christian vocation? Aren't we called to deny ourselves, our worldly narrow-mindedness, our worldly ways, and to follow Jesus, who desires nothing more than togetherness with you and me and all of humanity and God together? If togetherness is the goal, not rightness, not superiority, not ideological allegiance, but togetherness. How might this shape our nation today? Because from what I've experienced in my life, relationships change a person. They destroy hardline ideology and bias and bigotry and discrimination. And perhaps most importantly, they rid us of apathy. Relationships reveal just how much bigger God's love is than what we previously thought. We don't need more hardline political and ideological debate in this nation, or more sources telling us that why our partisan platform is superior to any others. We don't need more organizations like Turning Point USA's or the left-wing equivalents of that, whose purpose is not valuing people or valuing different opinions or even understanding truth, but winning. The great Greek philosopher Plato viewed this kind of competitive debate style, this heuristic debate approach to argument, as dangerous and superficial and detrimental because it doesn't prioritize truth. It prioritizes winning and ego and popular opinion over wisdom. Maybe we should take the time to travel, friends. Yes, literally and figuratively. Let's get out of our well-known niches and take the time to intentionally be with and get to know different people. People not like us, so that we can listen to them, hear their stories, and begin to love them, as we're called to do. Maybe we need to see again that each of us and our tribe is not at the center of the universe, personally, ethnically, culturally, nationally, religiously, or anything else that ends in ly for that matter. Because we are undoubtedly connected to one another. You see, the truth we often fail to see is that the well-being of one of us affects all of us. So my friends, blessings to you as you go out into the world to travel. May your different journeys transform your life. And may they transform the world that we live in into a more accepting and loving and united place.